So on November 11th, we got this story about Greg Oden saying that he's going to go down as the biggest bust in NBA history. Greg Oden, the former Ohio State player, drafted to Portland. He played for the Miami Heat for a little while, but he injured his knees. He was supposedly supposed to be awesome. Went number one in the same draft as Kevin Durant. But doesn't it seem just a little weird that we're getting a story about Greg Oden in the media now, a guy who hasn't played since 2014? And the reason we're getting this story is because this is the type of stuff the mainstream media does. The reason that he's in the media right now is because his name in gematria syncs up to Donald Trump, and I can't even begin to describe how many stories in the media recently have had numbers that synced up to Donald Trump. They love to take certain events and they do tributes before and after they happen. Donald Trump just, elected the 45th president. They literally do it with so many events, especially in regards to sports. It seems like a lot of times you get deaths before and after that sync up to the team who won. For example, last year, after the Royals won the World Series, 57 days later, we got the death of Dave Henderson, who was a former Kansas City Royal, finished his career there and whatnot. He died age 57 days after the World Series. In gematria, if you write his name out, Henderson, it equals 57. If you write out World Series, it equals 57. And if you don't know what gematria is, I'll leave a link in the description called How to Gematria. Check that video out. Please check out other links that I leave in the description, because some of the stuff I talk about in this video, if you don't know, if you haven't been following what I've been saying, you won't understand unless you watch some of the other links that I leave. But basically, our sports leagues, our media, Hollywood, it's all controlled by, an elitist group of people who worship numbers. They do everything by the numbers. So that being said, let's look at this story about Greg Oden in the media. So Greg Oden, his name in gematria equals 48, just like Donald Trump. I talked about all of this 48 stuff before the World Series. We even had the supermoon on Prince Charles's birthday. Prince Charles born in the year 48. The last closest supermoon was in the year 48. We had the Indians in the World Series who hadn't won since the year 48. I talked about how they were foreshadowing Israel and how Israel declared its independence in the year 48. Donald Trump upset the election. The biggest election upset in American history was when Harry S. Truman won. In the year 1948, all the polls and everything said he was going to lose. He ended up winning. He's the only president to die at the age of 88. If you write out just the word Trump, it equals 88 in gematria. In regards to 48 as well, notice in this article how they tell us that Greg Oden was the number one pick in the draft with Kevin Durant and Al Horford, blah, blah, blah. And then just randomly they're like, and also Marc Gasol was taken the 48th selection, because they want you to see the number 48. Greg Oden equals 48. It makes me wonder if what they're showing is that Donald Trump is going to be a big bust, just like Greg Oden. Possibly not, but it just makes me wonder if that's some type of subliminal messaging. I also thought it was funny that in the article, they made sure to let us know that Greg Oden is a Buffalo native. And I've been talking about all of this Native American stuff and how it syncs up to Donald Trump even. So it's just kind of funny the way they worded it, a Buffalo native. And Buffalo's been really important in a lot of things I've talked about in regards to assassinated presidents. I talked about this year on January 12th, Obama gave his final State of the Union address. The very next day he went to Omaha, Nebraska. Then on January 14th, he went to McKinley High School in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Think about Baton Rouge, Louisiana. All of the stories we got this year. We got the Alton Sterling shooting. Then we got the police shooting just a few days later. The same day we got the Alton Sterling story in the news, we got a story about the death of Philando Castile in Falcon Heights, Minnesota. And what's interesting about these two places, Falcon Heights, Minnesota, is where Teddy Roosevelt gave a famous speech about carrying the big stick. And he was William McKinley's vice president. So when William McKinley died, Roosevelt became the new president. William McKinley just so happened to die in Buffalo. And think about that in regards to Obama giving a speech at McKinley High School. Baton Rouge is named after the red stick of the Homa people, marking the hunting boundaries. And then Teddy Roosevelt gives the famous speech about carrying the big stick. There's also been a whole lot of stuff that connects back to Cleveland. That's why we had Cleveland in the NBA Finals and Cleveland in the World Series. I talked a whole bunch about Grover Cleveland as well. Grover Cleveland was even the president in 1885, the year that Marty McFly goes back to the future, or, he goes to 1885 in part 3, and the first thing he sees is the Native Americans being chased by the cavalry. But Grover Cleveland died exactly 108 days before the 1908 World Series. The last time the Cubs won the World Series was in 1908. 108 years ago, the Willis Tower in Chicago is 108 stories tall. The first ever baseball game was played on 5/4 of the year 1871. The word baseball equals 54. 5 months, 4 days later, we got the Great Chicago Fire on 10/8, a lot like 108. Grover Cleveland even dies age 71. The Cubs were cursed from 71 years ago in 1945 by the curse of the Billy Goat. A whole lot of Cleveland stuff. Even the Republican National Convention with Donald Trump was held in Cleveland this year. I've even talked about how there's something to do with Neil Young in connection to the Native American theme. And Neil Young was in the band Crazy Horse. He also has that song about the Kent State shooting called Ohio. The Kent State shooting was on 5/4 as well, reminding us of baseball. And just think about Cleveland in regards to Ohio State. They play in Ohio. Cleveland's in Ohio. Ohio in Jewish gematria even equals 117, just like if you read out 45th president, which Donald Trump is supposed to become at least. So Greg Oden used to play for Ohio State. Ohio State in gematria equals 112, a number that's just been very big. The 112th World Series just came to an end on November 2nd, a lot like 112. A whole bunch more with 112. It's even, in a lot of other countries, instead of dialing 911, they dial 112. Sandy Hook equals 112. Adam Lanza was born on the 112th day of the year. Much, much more, but Buckeyes in gematria equals 91, just like Make America Great Again, just like Chicago Cubs. Ohio State Buckeyes equals 68, just like Donald John Trump. So, Greg Oden equals 48, Donald Trump equals 48. Ohio State Buckeyes is what most people know Greg Oden for. Donald Trump's full name equals 68, just like Ohio State Buckeyes. The story also comes out 72 days before Greg Oden's birthday. If you read out President Trump, it equals 72. If you read out William McKinley, it equals 72. Just the other day, I just talked about a bunch of 72 stuff in regards to them comparing Donald Trump being elected like Ronald Reagan. The Ronald Reagan assassination attempt was by John Hinckley Jr. That equals 72. And he did it because of the writings of Arthur Bremer, who tried to assassinate George Wallace, the 45th governor of Alabama. Think about the 45th president, 45th governor. But he did it in the year 72. And if you go back to what I was talking about Harry S. Truman winning the 48 election, Harry S. Truman died in the year 72. My favorite part, though, and how they did this, it's not even necessarily numbers. Just think about the wordplay. Greg Oden. Remember the Norse god Odin, however you say it. This guy right here. Also known as, and think about how Donald Trump they announced that he won the election on a Wednesday. Odin, though, his character traits are compared to the Roman god of Mercury, which is interesting because Mercury is the planet that has the orbital period of 88 Earth days. Trump equals 88. And just think about Mercury, the god or whatever. Mercury, the patron god of financial gain, commerce, eloquence, luck, trickery, thieves. Even like the word merchandise supposedly comes from Mercury. And just think about all of that in regards to Donald Trump being the rich guy. Mercury in Gematria and Jewish Gematria even equals the same thing as Cleveland, which I found pretty interesting. If you read out Greg Oden's full name, Gregory Wayne Oden Jr., it equals 103, just like if you read out Mercury, and Greg Oden was born in the year 88. Another reason why I know this story was a tribute to Donald Trump is because just days later, we got this story about how Kevin Durant sticks up for Greg Oden, calls bus talk nonsense. Well, the reason that Kevin Durant would even say this, or they make a fake article saying that Kevin Durant said that, it's because Kevin Durant equals 1,189 in Gematria, just like if you read out Donald J. Trump. And remember, Donald Trump's 70th birthday was also on Pope Francis's 1,189th day as Pope, matching the chapters in the King James Bible. It was also his 3rd year and 3rd month being Pope, the 33, the highest degree of Scottish Rite Freemasonry. Pope Francis, for sure, a Freemason. I mean, if you don't believe me, look up pictures of Pope Francis doing Masonic poses. There's one sitting on the train with his hand in his shirt, the hidden arm one, the hidden hand. And in regards to the Bible, if you read out King James Bible, it equals 56. Royal family equals 56. The word president also equals 56. And I'm telling you, out of the few years that I've been doing Gematria, the number 56 seems to be just the most important number that I've ever found other than 33. Possibly I'm wrong, but the number 56 just goes along with so many big things. Osama bin Laden equals 56, Adolf Hitler equals 56, Saddam Hussein equals 56, ISIS equals 56. Abraham Lincoln died at the age of 56 in the year 65. In April, the only month that equals 56, Hitler died in April, that equals 56. Black Lives Matter equals 56. Climate change equals 56. I mean, just really big topic numbers, things always seem to equal 56. So, it's quick and to the point. Just check out the links I leave in the description if you don't know what I'm talking about. I'm trying to make some shorter videos and not ramble on so much. But the only reason we got this story about Greg Oden is because his name synced up to Donald Trump, and they love to just do tributes in the media constantly to big events that they have going on. So anyway, have a good one.